Well, good afternoon from New York. My name is Bob Linden, and I would like to welcome each of you to today's webinar, which is entitled The Changing Role of Account Management. The changing needs of today's agency environment require account leaders to demonstrate broader skills, leadership mindsets, and partnership approaches to client relationships than in the past. Welcome to the New World Order. While the fundamental elements of account management are and will remain rock solid, it will be one's ability to get ahead of the curve, see around corners, and actually see the forest in order to provide leadership in approaching and developing integrated strategic and creative solutions for client business problems. Today's webinar leader, Greg Tauscher, will review how account management is changing in 5 key areas. Before we start, some housekeeping. You can hear us, but we cannot hear you. If you have any problems viewing the presentation on your computer, it could be a firewall or security issue on your end, and you may need to contact your IT person. If you need to contact us via email, please send an email to bob.linden@filamentinc.com. We'll help you if you have any technical issues. And if you disconnect for any reason, just go back to the email invitation and log in again. Our webinar leader today is Greg Tauscher, and I'll let Greg elaborate on his background, but a few key points. Greg joined the advertising department faculty at Michigan State University in January 2016, following his saying adios to DDB after 30 plus years in May of 2015. Prior to joining DDB in 1990, Greg was Senior Vice President Group Business Director at Tracy Locke, an Omnicom agency headquartered in Dallas. At the end of the webinar, we'll have a few minutes for questions. However, please feel free to send us your questions as we go through the webinar. We encourage everyone to tweet during this webinar, and you can see the last bullet on your screen, our hashtag Filament Web Clinics. And with that, please welcome Greg Tauscher.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome, greetings from Michigan, where it's the sun is out. It's a balmy 27 degrees. I'm Greg Tauscher, as Bob said. Spent most of my career at DDB. I did 33 years in the industry. Went from assistant account executive to the C-suite, all in account management, international. Been big accounts, small accounts, global accounts, you name it. So what I want to do today is really share with you some perspective on account management and where this is going, because I still keep in touch with a lot of clients who do work in the industry in this area. So I believe that I can provide you all with some pretty good perspective and some thought starters as we move forward. As Bob said, we're talking about the changing role of account management. And I think that this is an area that has come under a lot of fire in the recent years as to exactly what account management is. Is it project management? Is it account management? Where does this fit into scopes of work? Where does it fit into the hierarchy of integrated marketing communication? So we're going to touch on some of these today. But what I really want to get across to you is, as Bob said, there's some key takeaways in terms of leadership, mindset, and some other areas that we'll talk about that are really going to help as you move through this. Every time I look through Rolling Stone, I'm always amazed at the ads I find in the back. And I was particularly struck by this one a few issues back, which is about how you could become an account executive, just like you could get a license to marry your best friend by going on Rolling Stone. But if only this were the case. And I think what we want to do is debunk a lot of these perspectives about the industry and move into what really matters. Just as there's constants in the universe, there's foundational constants in account management. Now, these are characteristics identified from both experience and observation that I believe truly set the outstanding account manager apart from the crowd. That consistent striving for and adhering to these qualities really helps an individual contribute not only to the success of their agency and to their client, but also to their career path. So it's, intellectual and personal cutting edge, just being on top of the client's business, high performance standards, good enough isn't good enough. I want to jump down to the fifth one, which is a really, I believe, a critical one, which is the importance of now. Understanding business today, that the cycle times are much shorter, that the stakes are much higher, and that, being able to get things done is a trait that I hear consistently from both clients and agencies in terms of what they look for in their account leadership. Obviously passionate about the client's business and the agency's product, being stubborn in a very healthy way, integrity and trust, and then understanding the business of the business. We'll touch on this briefly because the business dynamics have changed in terms of what the expectations are of account managers in today's world. Simply put, we provide creative solutions to client business problems. This is not going to be anything new, but just to kind of level set this thing as to where we're going to be coming from. This is all about providing solutions, unpacking problems, digging in, ferreting out the points of difference and turning those into highly effective solutions for clients. But we have to now do it in an integrated format. So we're highly reliant on partner agencies. And I think that the one thing in the changing role of account management is that we are far more reliant on our success and the success of our organization, far more reliant on other individuals in the process. That it's just not our agency. It's just not our, it's what we do. It really comes down to how we work well with partner agencies. And I think, what's changed in account management is the following, is that the changing role has been driven by the changing dynamics of the process. It's not just the digitalization and digital transformation. It's not been media decoupling. It's not been the rise of social listening or branding or any of those things, that it is really the changing dynamics of the process, and that process is growth. Every single client that I talk to, small clients, multinational clients, and the same holds true on the agency side, is it's all driven by growth. That the return on marketing investment is becoming critical in terms of, how they view, the performance of their agency partners. I had a client actually tell me once that they believed agency fees were non-working shareholder capital. So I think when you start to understand, that, many of our clients now, are driven by bottom line performance, it really changes the perspective and the attitudes that account management people have to have. Life was much simpler. Here's our world today. We start off with, the client and are we the AOR? Are we a partner agency? Where do we all fit in? How does all this work? Understanding, the dynamics of the industry, the components that go into this, having some fluency, having some competency, are obviously going to be very important, but also understanding that you're part of something bigger. I think Phil Jackson said it best many years ago when he had a one-on-one meeting with Kobe Bryant, when Phil and Kobe were with the Lakers. And Phil Jackson told him, he says, you're going to be a lot better, and we're going to be a lot better when you start to understand that you're part of something bigger. And I think in account management today, you really do have to understand that you are part of something bigger, that it is just not this myopic view of your client relationship that has to factor into the equation. So the job description has changed. I mean, if you were to go out today and run an ad, the one ad would look like this, experience in data, digital, social, media, print, PR, events, programmatic, out of home, must be able to have the ability to simultaneously and efficiently lead dozens of stakeholders, often with competing agendas and interests. Successful candidates must be skilled in Excel, managing up, down, sideways, and have a basic understanding of AI, augmented reality, brand development indices, cost per click, cost per point, EBITs, FTEs, PBT, etc. And the ability to plan and change manage a scope of work on a dime, manage a P&L, accurately forecast next year's revenue, and future-proof the agency's relationship with the client. That is the job of account management today. Huge. Where do you start? Well, if you're going to hire someone, they might look like this. They might look like a droid, but that is not, seemingly plausible in today's world. So I think what really comes is we look at the role of the changing role of account management with both clients and agencies. And I think you have to look at this from both sides. Unfortunately, account management people today are still like the push me, pull me creature in Dr. Dolittle. They have to manage the client relationships. They have to lead the business. They have to, again, future-proof the agency's relationship with the client. And on the agency side, they have to manage a business as well. They have to manage a P&L. They have to manage their targets. They have to manage resources. They have to worry about, working capital and those kinds of things. So it really is, an interesting place where account management has gotten. So went out and talked to some people in developing this. Talked to chief marketing officers, VPs of advertising service directors, brand managers, et cetera, on the client side, and then also went out and talked to CEOs and chief operating officers, CFOs, and then the key discipline people inside agencies. And I also talked to search consultants. Now you're probably wondering, why did I talk to search consultants? Well, these guys have a lot of exposure to account management. Remember, these are the guys in the chemistry meetings. These are the guys who are talking to clients about agencies and performance and reputations and these kinds of things. So understanding, how these people view account management, in addition to how agency management views it and how clients view it, is going to give us a very interesting picture this afternoon when we go through, what's the changing role. You look on the client side, they want strategic thought leadership across every aspect of the brand and business. They want to have account people add tangible value and embrace and lead integration and change. Oftentimes they turf the whole integration piece to the account person or to the agency in order to get that done. It's unfair sometimes, but unfortunately that's the reality. So being able to understand that and lead through that is important. Ability to get things done. I hear this over and over again. They want people who can get things done on time, on budget, and obviously on brand. Lead and deliver the agency. And then the human side, trust, integrity. They're creative. They approach their business as if it was their own. There's transparency, and again, there's partnership. On the agency side, obviously, lead and champion the client's business internally and externally. Develop and lead teams to deliver their best work. I think the big piece here is inspiring the teams and making sure that they have the flexibility and they have the support from account management to really go out and try new things and develop new work. Great work. Effectively balance both the client and agency financials. Always tough to do. You're going to have operating targets for both. You're going to have all sorts of things that you're going to have to do. So seamless financial management is paramount. And then also being responsible, accountable, and performance driven. The big one in here, though, folks, is a creative champion. For all the account people out there, you can really endear yourselves to your agency partners by being a great champion of work. Not only in pre-selling work, calling the client the day before and say, here's where we're going, here's the concepts we have a whole lot of heart for, but also keeping the work sold inside an organization, which at times is often as difficult as selling it in up front. So I think, you look at the client and agency side, there's a lot of pieces on here that, you really have to deliver day in and day out. The word that keeps popping up in this thing, the common thing across here, is leader, is lead or leadership. Lead this, lead that, provide leadership here. Leadership is where clients and agencies both look to account management. And it's one of those words where everyone thinks that leadership is the mantle of someone else. When we hear the word leadership, we think of historical figures. We think of generals. We think of titans of industry. We think of politicians. We also think of valor, distinction, and fortitude, and grit, courage, and determination, and those kinds of things. And then we also think of events. Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders, 9/11, of course, being where people demonstrate a lot of leadership, and then personal leadership. The gentleman on the cover here is a good friend of mine from Singapore, David Lim. He's been up Mount Everest twice. He's disabled. So, you think about the leadership that is required, that it is not someone else. And I think that this is, one of the things in this current environment where account management people can truly distinguish themselves both with the client and with the agency by providing leadership that is, that is tangible, but also helps them in their own personal growth to become better resources for all the organizations. So this really comes down to the individual and how we get there. And I think that the most important thing to realize is that when you look around you, is that there are leadership opportunities everywhere in an agency, that it is not just up to someone else to point you in the right direction. The biggest thing you can do to demonstrate and build your leadership within the agency and with the client is go looking for white space, look for areas that are underdeveloped. I made a career out of making sure that I made every job I had bigger than it was on paper. It created more value for the clients. It created more value for the agency with the client relationship. And honestly, it created more value for me in terms of like what I was able to do and grow inside the organization and the opportunities that I was given. So this is really one of those of look for the white space. Look for the areas where there are holes that you can fill. You're going to have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. You're going to have to think differently about you, your clients, your agency in order to do this. But, this is also one of those opportunities where you get to, try something new. One of the things that we used to do an executive committee meeting at Facebook and Google and all those guys out in Silicon Valley. And I remember wandering around the halls of Facebook one day, and there's a poster that says, "What would you do if you weren't afraid?" And I think that really comes down to leadership. What would you do if you weren't afraid? So this is like, go out and put it out there and try something new. And if you fail at it, you fail at it, but at least you're going to give it a shot. I think the big thing here is with this leadership piece comes, you're going to be seen much more as a business leader. You're going to have much more of an account management kind of perspective than just project management. And I think in today's world, with the scope, with the pressures on scope and the pressures on FTEs and hours and delivering EBIT and PBT and these kinds of things, that we get much more focused on managing projects, doing things day to day, working through the grind, if you will, that we don't focus enough on business leadership. And this is where we have to kind of make the mental pivot to get out of this project management mode and back into account management mode of leading business, developing clients' business, both, for the client's brand and the consumer experience, but also for the agency. So I think that, the changing role of account management really becomes much more whole brain. We have to have, the left-hand side, the logical piece of us has to, the strategy and the insights and the business perspective and the marketing knowledge that we bring to it, but also the creativity. That the creativity is what we need to foster. We need to champion. We need to make sure that we are giving everyone in our organization the right opportunities to learn and grow and to become far more successful in their jobs. And that is, I think, believe it or not, one of the roles of account management is to coach people up, to coach failure, but also to make them whole brain thinkers in terms of how business gets approached. So we have to start that with ourselves. So we look at this from the client and agency side. They want leadership. They want add tangible value, lead integration, bring us strategic thought leadership, consistently lead and deliver the agency, trust. And so we're going to look at this and go, what do they want? So I dug down on this and I was like, guys, what are you really talking about here? And, we had some pretty broad discussions, and circled back a couple more times with people and kind of put forward a model that said, I want to, here's what you're saying, and I want to see if this way I have dimensionalized this makes sense. So here we go. Now, it's the triangle. Your expectations of account management as things move forward. And this is what, based on the conversations with these people, what I distilled this down to. We'll start with digital leadership, and we'll come back to the top at the latter point. So digital leadership, digital transformation. Clients are like just they cannot get enough digital thought leadership from their agencies. They need help. That for as integrated as clients want to seem, their knowledge and their connectivity with the digital world in many instances is very narrow. They view the agency as providing insight and perspective in terms of what's new and where this business is going. So I think the digital transformation, the digital leadership, the verification, the validation, the attribution, the big issues in the industry today are where they're looking to account management to provide them some perspective and insight. Business leadership and design thinking. One of the things that is really interesting is that clients now are talking a lot about the design thinking process, collaboration, co-creativity, the business canvas modeling, where we move through the revenue streams and where this is coming from. So they're looking at this much more from a business standpoint. Test and learn. Let's try new things. Let's have 3 or 4 different tracks going at the same time to see which one is going to provide us with the most return. Because again, we go back to that initial premise: is that this is all about growth. So I think understanding, the business side of things, really digging in and understanding your client's business and being able to apply them some strategic tools against this in design thinking and business canvas modeling and other things are going to be really important for account management to take the lead, not only for them personally, but also for the agency and for the client. And then the big one, strategic ambidexterity. Now you're probably going, what the hell does that mean? Trust me, when I wrote the words, I got several responses, which were, what the hell does that mean? Well, here's what it means. Strategic ambidexterity, efficient management of today while exploring the opportunities of tomorrow. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why those 2 words are at the top of the triangle, because this statement here resonated with clients like I had just rung a bell. They were like, this is it. This is what we want account management people to do. Efficient management of today and exploring the opportunities of our business tomorrow. And this is a tough one, because scopes of work and the way that they allocate resources are not set up this way, but we need to kind of step back and push and reconfigure our model so that we're able to do this for our clients, because this was their big deal. When I put these words out there, they said, this is it. So I think, understanding that the efficient management of today while exploring, the opportunities of tomorrow plays right into this. The logical side, the creative side, where are we going to go with this thing? If it were my business, what would I do with it? How would I move things forward, and where would I go? Because this isn't going to change. This part is not going to change. If anything, it's only going to get broader and it's going to get deeper. Numbers rule our world. Data-driven marketing communications is alive and well. How all this kind of fits in and our understanding of that. So having an efficient management of today, but also seeing where this is going. And when you start looking at the reality in which we work, is very important. Now, the leadership piece in this, you look at the gear model, the gear chart, for lack of a better term. We live in a much flatter world. We're working more horizontally now than we ever have in the past. And the agency partners where we engage and the clients which we engage with, it's a much flatter process. It's far more diverse. We have multiple agencies doing different things, and we have to understand different business models, different methods of compensation, different deliverables, different skill sets, etc. It's all fluid. It all has to run. End of the day, clients look to account management for things to be seamless, to be flawless. They don't want to see any of the issues that are associated with that chart. They want everything to be fluid. They want everything to just kind of move through and that's invisible to them. But that also means we have to have a community. We have to have relationships with people. We have to have rapport. We have to have trust. We have to have integrity. So we have to build this sense of community when we start working on clients, because again, we're all part of something bigger. And at the end of the day, it comes down to performance. And if our performance is substandard and we don't add value, well, then without being too blunt, agencies get fired and individuals get fired. So I think you have to also understand that there's the performance component in this that you have to meet. So we've got a much flatter world. It's far more diverse. Clients view this as, it's seamless, should be seamless to me. I want you guys all working, playing well together. I don't want to have anybody kind of popping in and popping up with ideas that are catching everybody off guard. And at the end of the day, I want everybody to do their job, perform well, and meet my business objectives. Well, that's all good. Because what is happening now, we're moving from the AOR model into projects. That the AOR model, you may be AOR in name, but projects get jump balled all the time. I was recently talking to a couple of clients, and I talked to an advertising technology company about this, and they're seeing it more and more. The scopes are being developed where they can break things out and put things in jump balls. Well, that comes back to, where we are is the procurement revolution. We're in a very transactional mode of operation. So I think when you start looking at this and starting to couple things together with, we've got this leadership, we've got it we want, manage today, manage tomorrow, but then we get in here with the procurement piece, a very transactional mode of operation. It becomes extremely difficult. So here's the tension in account management. Strategic thought leadership across every aspect of the brand, business, and scope. Add tangible value, embraces leads change, integration, but we have to operate in a very transactional mode of operation. So there becomes the rub. How do we get this, to the point where we can start to okay, where does account management need to change? What do we need to do? And how do we bring this forward? Because there is a higher demand for leaders in account management. Every agency that I speak with, raising performance standards, making sure that the skill sets are there, and they're training, and they're always on the hunt for new talent. Clients on the same side, they want their account people not just to be project managers, they want them to be strategic partners. And this is hard because we're looking at, we want to do this, but we're doing it in a very transactional environment. So, it's a higher demand for leadership. So this is where the change in account management really has to start to take place. We need to, obviously, the business leadership, understand the client's business, incredibly well, move through the system, have the strategic ambidexterity that we understand where the business is today, where it's going tomorrow, that we carve out time for points of view and to bring forward ideas to the client that are going to help their business grow. You bring forward to the ideas that also are going to help the agency grow organically, because the best source of new business is going to be from existing clients, and then help them with the whole digital leadership. And this, I think, is a really important part of it, because it's changing constantly. I think every time that there's the CES, show, which just ended, clients come back with all these great ideas of where they want to go from a tactical standpoint, from apps and these things and the others. This is where account management needs to dig in. This is where account management needs to be the voice and conscience of the brand. And it's not, you're just chasing, you're not chasing the next, execution. There needs to be a strategy. There needs to be the insight into the consumer, and working with coordination with account planners on the holistic view of the business. So where does this fit? Does it fit? Why does it fit? And having, conversations with clients that sometimes might not be what they want to hear, but what they need to hear. And I think that this is, the payoff of the strategic ambidexterity, in that, you're really looking forward to to where the business goes next. So this is all about change. So it really is going to come down to change, and change is hard. Human nature tells us that change is good so long as change doesn't affect me. So we're going to have to get out of our comfort zones. We're going to have to, again, probably in many instances, move out of project management and back into account management, where we're actually, doing far more consultative, strategic work than we are running the day-to-day. I think what's interesting is that Arthur Sadoun, a CEO of Publicis, said, we're completely changing the way we work with clients, and leading this change is the account person. Notice that it's not the strategy lead, it's not the creative lead, though they value those two disciplines, and those people on their team, highly, but it's the account management person. It's the business. It's the person who understands the brand, the business, has a relationship with the client, and is able to move things forward, in a very logical, pragmatic, and commercial fashion. So again, it's going to come back to account management. So this is where we need to get out of project management and become far more focused on the business. So again, project management is something that we have to break the change. We cannot get the cultural lock-in on account management people or project managers. That will become, you will see I would predict a rather precipitous decline in relationships with clients if all that account management is seen as is project managers, because then we're going to deal with the issue of relevance. So project management, while it's a function, and you have to manage the day-to-day, the 1 to 5, you still have to be on the lookout for running the 6 to 10. So we have to change as we go through this from client relationships to integrated client systems. And I think this gets us out of that project management piece, where we have to look at the client relationships holistically, and we have to look at how we fit into the integrated client system. How do we expand our role logically and without, being a divisive force in this, but how do we start to be seen as the leader in this process? I think the other thing too is that we're going from selling advertising ideas to selling the consumer experience. And I think that once we get out of, we're just selling, a creative idea, we're selling an advertising idea, to we're selling a broader suite of the consumer experience, especially in today's economy with all the touch points, the better off that we're going to be, not only as account people, but where we're going to be better off as client partners and partners inside the agency in fostering creativity and also helping people realize their objectives as well. One of the things I do when I work with agencies, several agencies, we have a book club, and I put out 3 books, for consideration today for you to look at, that I believe, based on going through these with other agencies, have really paid off in terms of learning and understanding, and more importantly, the growth of their account management people. The first one, Philip Kotler, the Marketing 4.0. This is the German version of it, but it all talks about the digital transformation. Where do we go from here? And if you've become a student of Kotler, you understand that his progression is very pragmatic, it's very strategic, but it also is very practical in terms of application. So anything that Kotler puts down is a great piece. The second book, with the X, the experience when business meets design, is a fascinating book. This has become pretty much my go-to in terms of a lot of the things that I work on with students here at Michigan State, other things that we do with companies to help their people understand, consumer journeys and understanding the strategic thought process to help build that not only the logical side of how you unpack problems and think them through, but how you execute them creatively. So I think this is a great book, and anything that if you have the opportunity to get a copy or copies of those, it's well worth the investment. The other book that I recommend highly is the fuzzy and the techie, helping account people and planners understand how to deal with the people who do the data. What kinds of they can get you all the information that you need, but you need to be able to, you need to ask the right questions. This helps you understand their mindset, helps you understand how they think and how they approach things. You, on the other hand, they need to understand how you think, so that there's an equilibrium point, so that you understand how the data and information are going to come together. The data piece of this is a critical importance for account management people. Having certification in data in Google Analytics and other things, and maybe even getting a trading desk certification, certainly are things to look at, because those are going to help you understand the world of marketing communications better, but they're also going to help you be a better partner for your clients and certainly for your agency. So if anybody has any questions about the reading list, I'd be more than happy to pass along some of the things that we've worked on with other agencies. So, I think, creative and technology have the power to transform the world. Here's a quote from RGA. But I think what's really important here is that we understand that in account management, we really are at the intersection or crossroads of humanity and technology and creativity, and that we have to bring these together. And I think the technology piece, while it's the executional part, it's also the front end, the data that we have and the ability to take the information that we have that we can put into play to help drive customer experiences, and also to ensure that our clients get our best thinking. It's also a great opportunity for us to learn more about what's going on with our clients in the client world. So understanding the technology piece to understand, how we experience the world is really important. And again, what comes next in that strategic ambidexterity piece. So again, we're moving from singly focused client relationships to integrated client systems. Clients work differently now than they ever have. They're going to continue to work differently as they move forward. I hear from clients all the time, we need to reduce the number of agencies. We need to reduce this. We need to reduce that. Understand that, that their cost, the pressures on our clients for costs is significant. We need to understand that, and we need to be solution oriented. And frankly, we need to figure out how we have to change our model to service there. So I think understanding, these integrated client relationships are going to help us be smarter business people and smarter business resources, and then moving, strictly out of advertising into consumer experience. So again, I think it's much more about, the change and how you get there and where this whole thing goes. I think what's interesting also is that clients want to make agency models more flexible, integrated, and cost efficient. I pulled this out of Campaign. This isn't going away. Account people have to understand this. Account people have to understand what clients are saying. And also I think this is where, for listening and understanding and paying attention and having those great relationships with clients can help. Because this is where, you can build action plans and implementation things, is where agencies are seen as, partners, that they're seen as, solutions to businesses, that they're not, actually just going through the motions. And I think, when you look at this second highlighted comment here, which is, it's well known and widely accepted that the current agency model no longer works in the modern world. Every account person needs to take notice and go, how do we make sure that we are, relevant to our clients, that we add value, we're relevant, and more importantly, we do not make the process too difficult. I've seen it over the years that, where agencies typically have issues with clients is when the agency is perceived not to be adding value, or they just make the process too hard. And I think this is where account management really needs to step up their game, because the mindset of the client is, we want to build the agency model of the future. Well, I think it's incumbent on account people to look at their business and say, take a step back and say, if this were my business, where would I go with this thing? And how would I move it forward? So again, it's the chaining role. Look at it from the business side, look at it from the relationship side, but also look at it from the creative side, from the solution side, and to where we could take this business. There's a tremendous amount of potential in every client that we have. It's just we have to understand where it is. There are agencies who have moved into the world of human resources because it's an area inside a client organization that is under leveraged in terms of marketing, communication, support. But what that does is it helps getting into human relations, helps you understand better the culture, where the company is going, why they're doing what they're doing. So be on the lookout, be the bird dog for the agency and walk the halls. Talk to clients, find out what their pain points are, because if they're looking to change the model, we just can't listen to our day-to-day clients. We have to listen to other factions and other constituents in the client organization to understand where this thing is really going to go. So again, it's this strategic ambidexterity, it's the digital leadership, it's the business thinking around this, and making sure that we're at the forefront of things. Now, it's not just change, it's reinvention. We need to reinvent the role. We need to take a hard look at it and say, we're not going to change the role. We need to reinvent the role. What do we need to do different in today's world? Reinvention is one of the things that is critical. I was 30 plus years in the industry, and my reinvention was significant. Because again, I made every job bigger than it was on paper. I looked for opportunities. I kind of moved into things, and I think that this is something you can do easily in any organization. But what it takes is, we're going to kind of go back to the Apple thing here for a minute. It's about thinking about your clients differently, thinking differently about their business. Where their business is today is not necessarily where it's going to be tomorrow. Where does this thing go? And also think differently about your agency. Where do we fit? Again, and a good account person, in today's world especially, is a great listener. Listening not to respond, but listening to understand. And what's more important is listening to what clients aren't saying. And what are the cues and what are the things that you have to pay attention to ensure that, your agency maintains its relevance. We have to think differently about our partner agencies. Again, our success as an agency, your success as an account person, is influenced by people who don't report into you. So understanding that mentality is sometimes a big shift, because then you have to start thinking differently about yourself. What do I need to do? From a career path standpoint, from a development standpoint, what do I need to do to make sure that I'm thinking differently about my clients? Because here's what we want. We want to have account people bring strategic thought leadership to the table. Be the go-to. Be the person that everybody in the room looks at and says, I want this individual on my business. They add genuine value. Make your job bigger than it is on paper. This is a simple one, but this will change the role of account management for you, for your agency significantly if you start looking at ways that you can make your job bigger on paper. Identify new projects and revenue streams. Again, walk the halls, talk to people, find the under leveraged pieces of client business, the problem brand, the problem store, the problem region. Get in there, get tough, add value and make a name for the agency and yourself. And then be a champion of the client, the agency, and great work. So, if you think about things differently, and you take this mindset of, we're going to go through the wall as opposed to go around it, you're going to be a lot better off. And on a daily basis, it's Marine Corps 101. It's improvise, adapt, and overcome. It's every day you're moving at the speed of the consumer in real time. I tell students here all the time is, the speed of the industry is significantly greater than what you're experiencing here. And you think it's hard here, wait till you get out there. Embrace the cause. Again, I mentioned it in one of the first slides. Understand the importance of now. We actually won a major global piece of business at DDB because the client feedback was you understood our problems now and you were ready to address it. And I think from an account management standpoint, that is a huge part of, of delivering added value and, and partnership to clients when we do this. And I think the big thing is never give up on the hard and important stuff. Keep churning. I read a quote from Warren Buffett about, the great salesman knocks on the same door all the time. Keep after it. The key is don't overreach and, always ask for help, because I think that's a really important part of this entire process. The changing role of account management is being driven by the dynamics of the process. So don't settle or don't allow yourself to be relegated to project management. This to me is a really, really, a major takeaway from this seminar is to not let yourself or allow yourself to be relegated to project management. Get up, get out, figure out a way to rise above the fog of war. It all comes down to reinvention. You want to talk about reinvention? Well, let's talk about Bruce Springsteen. First saw him in 1975. Last time I saw him was, his one-man show on Broadway. He has reinvented himself every decade, every generation. He's changed with the times. He's moved forward. And I think that this is an important aspect in the changing role of account management, is constantly changing, constantly morphing and evolving, taking on new skills, taking on new information, taking on new roles and new responsibilities, but also making sure that you grow as a person. It's great the clients grow. It's great that the agency grows, but you have to make sure that you're minding your brand as well and talking about, you're moving forward. And that all comes down to your relevance. And that is, I think, the big thing for anyone in the industry today is maintaining relevance. That you understand, you're a student of the industry, you understand what's going on, you understand that, what the implications of various activities and actions are. You understand, the climate in which you live. I think the big thing also is intellectual curiosity, and that's how you maintain your relevance. The reading list, the feeds you get, and just staying in tune with the clients. Understand what the client's business is all about. Understand their supply chain. Understand, what the interruptions or potential interruptions to their supply chain are. And then where do you want to go? Where do you want to learn? Where do you want to grow? Again, it's the basics. It all comes back to, the things that make a difference in account management. Again, from experience and observation, that this list of deliverables, for lack of a better term, really do make a difference in account management and help you in the evolution and adaptation of the roles, business to business, and how things move forward for you personally. Again, the key takeaways, I think the strategic ambidexterity doesn't roll off the tongue very easily, but it's understanding to efficient management of today and the exploration of where this thing goes tomorrow. Those were the words that resonated the greatest with the clients when I went back to them after our discussions. That to them was dead solid perfect. So understand that is the expectation of where the discipline of account management they want it to go. Embrace the cause. Understand that this is the game, that we're in it. We need to think differently about our clients, and our agencies and our partner agencies, and we need to think differently about ourselves. Again, we need to manage today while exploring the tomorrow. Understanding the importance of now. Leading change and integration, I think, is always going to be a factor in today's world. It's probably going to get more complex and more difficult to do. So again, it's going to take some stealing and in terms of personality, and that's where being stubborn in a healthy way will pay off for you down the line. Obviously, reinvention and relevance. It's a long haul. Yeah, and it's staying relevant is critical. But I gotta tell you from my own personal experience that reinvention, as you move through this thing, is a lot of fun. You learn and grow, and you get to do some pretty cool stuff. And you do that all because you have the intellectual curiosity. You're going to the game. You're not waiting for the game to come to you. That you're hitching it up and you're getting it done. So, I guess the big final thought here is run at the changing role of account management. Don't just sit on the sidelines. Don't, kind of look at your client's business and go, well, they're out there, they're doing their thing. Make it happen. Get in the game. Play like you want the ball, and you'll manage this course pretty well. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Bob and with questions and answers and
we are getting a lot of questions. I should have mentioned this up front. Yes, I will be sending out a PDF of today's presentation. There is a great quote, and I'll attribute it to Tim Leake from RPA, and I know RPA is online today. A description of your job. Give clients what they need before they realize they need it. To me, that says it all when it comes to account management. In fact, Tim will be doing a webinar for us on using innovation in new business. We're looking forward to that. But let's get to the questions as they continue to roll in from Brandon. Any tips on how to overcome being a young AE, meaning how to build trust and leadership despite an age gap? Any recommendations on how to immerse yourself in a brand and find the white space?
Sure. Great question. Brandon, this is also going to be one of those where you put your hand up, and find a project, find something that nobody is looking at. Is it production prepayments? Look at what you're dealing with day to day and go, what's in here that I could take that gives me a leadership opportunity? Is there a better way to handle production prepayments? Is there a better way to handle, the purchase order process and how we get those through? How can I help manage, working capital and accounts receivable? I mean, you start doing those on the agency side, you're going to gain a lot of trust and confidence. The other one is go to your client, go to say, hey, if it's, I don't know what account you work on, I want to go spend time with the people in the factory. I want to understand how, whatever it is. But I think your knowledge of the day to day is probably, it's the fog of war. We see what we see, but I think if you kind of step back and look at it from the standpoint, if I just look at what I'm doing today and how I could do what I'm doing today, make it better, I think you're going to find that there's going to be a lot of opportunities in front of you. And it could, there was a young woman who her career track was at DDB Chicago, whose career track was completely vaulted forward because she took on production prepayment for a client. She wanted to figure out a better way to do this given the cash parameters they were under. So it's understanding the business, it's understanding the business realities, it's understanding the client, and it's also understanding the agency. But I think, if you're in the business day to day and you really got your head in the game, you're going to find one or two things where you can go, I can make this big, and try it. And if it doesn't work, well, at least you tried it. And all I can do is say, it didn't work, and you go find another one. Great question, though. Good luck.
Another great question from Annabelle. Best way to move away from project management? Agencies still expect all client relationships to be managed by accounts, even in areas where the work is so project-driven, executional. What's the best way to shift project management duties to other areas where they're best suited so the account team can focus more on the business?
I think the thing you have to look at there is how can technology pick up some of the things you need to get done. A lot of the project management, a lot of the work that is done in project management, there may be a technology solution that will free you up to do the work. The other thing is, just carve out, an hour or two a week to do something different. There's forced learning. Find the, like there's ever a down day in advertising account management, right? But find a day where where you have some downtime and just kind of go off to a Starbucks or someplace and just think about the business, think about where you'd go with it, because there may be situations where you can't get out of the fray, but just make some time. And I think this is where you talk to your management and say, look, we're going to be better assets for you. We're going to be better assets for our clients if we are allowed, some time to go off and think about business, think about what we're doing, think about better ways to do things than we're doing it now. Because right now we're just in the fog of war.
Follow-up question from similar to Brandon's. You mentioned a catalyst for change. How would you suggest we instill this thought or idea among our less experienced or less senior account management staff?
I think it comes, it's a great question. I think it comes down to anybody can, and great idea, you've heard it a million times, a great idea comes from anywhere. But I think it's like, play with your head up. Don't get so down in the slog that you can't see, what's around you. And I think the catalyst for change, it's a little thing. It's a different way to get estimates done. It's a different way to get job opened. It's a different way to get, creative through the system. It's a different way to, present work. And giving people the opportunity to present and get in front of clients and get their thinking across suddenly gives them ownership and emotional commitment. So I think any chance that you have to get people in the game, thinking about like Brandon's question, it's in front of you. Well, how do you exploit that? And what are ways that you can make that better? I'm not sure that was a great answer, but.
All right. I'm sorry, Greg.
No, it's just what popped to mind first.
Okay, questions continue to roll in, a lot of questions. So just a heads up to everyone, we will probably go a few minutes past 2:00. I would encourage everyone to stick around. Someone's asking strategic ambidexterity. I can't even say it. Can you expand on this a bit more? It's a very interesting concept.
Well, I think a lot of it is, it's what clients were saying is they want flawless execution day to day. And it's like, that's what they want, but what it's a want versus need. But what they need is they want somebody out in front of this thing, kind of telling them where they're going. Where's the next big win for our brand? So I think, you have to have, solid knowledge of the client in order to do that. You have to have solid knowledge of the category, and you have to have solid knowledge of the consumer. So immersing yourself in the strategic tools and the strategic thought processes, is really important. But I also think that it's like looking at the competition and where they are and where you think they're going to go. This is like playing chess. Where do we think they're going to go? And what you have to do sometimes in that is kind of put yourself in the other person's shoe. If you're the client, well, where are they not taking their business? I guess is the best way to look at that. So again, understanding, having a solid understanding of what the scope is and the deliverables today, but then kind of getting inside their head and not looking at, well, here's where I want to go, but look at it from a standpoint of, here's where they're not going. And if they went there, what would be the outcome for the brand?
Earlier, Greg spoke to staying close to clients, unpacking problems, etc. In today's advertising world, so many clients have integrated, meaning total market models with lead agencies. Thoughts on working under these multi-agencies, one lead agency models?
Okay.
So I'm assuming it's a client has more than one agency.
Yeah. Yeah. So where do you fit?
Right.
Well, this is always the conundrum, and it's, the integrated agency team. I don't know if any of you are on an integrated, how many are on an integrated agency team, but these can become very contentious because it's, while they're supposed to be integrated and open to sharing and ideas and everything, they become they become a little too narrow. I think the thing you have to do there is, this is where you have to start building, collaboration, and you have to build relationships, and you have to initiate things with agencies in this environment where, with a partner agency, where you get 2 or 3 of you together and say, hey, here's an idea. What do you think about us working on? Now, you have to trust these people that they're not going to go running off with your idea and present it as theirs. So there has to be some, some relationship there. But I think, it's how do you build, a sense of this, that sense of community, where you have 2 or 3 other agencies, or 2 or 3 other, or maybe someone on the client side and another agency person, where you say, here's an opportunity. It goes back to one of the previous questions about where the business could go. And I think if you look at it from the standpoint of not where the business is now and what we're doing in the current scope, but where this needs to go, is to surface that in a way that's not going to ruffle a whole lot of feathers, which I don't know if there's a good way to do that. So you might have to set yourself up for a little bit of pain, but you owe it to your clients to move their business forward. And I think that, putting that out there, with what have you got to lose? So they yell at you, big deal, get yelled at for doing something as opposed to doing nothing. So.
True. All right. Great questions continue to roll in. I think we have time for 1 or 2 last questions. Let's see. Let me pick out a couple of good ones. In one of your early slides, you listed several traits as being those that, quote, make a difference in account management, end quote. In the context of the changing role of account management, what do you see as being the real, quote, difference maker or makers, end quote, in client relationships?
Well, I think there's probably 3 of them. I think the one is, intellectual and personal cutting edge is, being able to unpack problems, drive strategy, get people to understand where you're going, why you're going there, why you want to take the business there is huge. So I think there's that. I think strong sense of team is important because it is a team sport. And like I said, your success is, and the client's success is going to be reliant on people who don't work for you and all that. But then I keep coming back to, the ability to get things done, understand the importance of now, delivery, consistent, flawless execution, coupled with, solid strategic leadership. That's a winning combination in any environment. And if you can get, your head around those 2 things, you're going to be, as the old beer commercial said, you're going to be Moosehead beer. You're going to be head and antlers above everybody else.
And we have time for one last question. Cultural lock-in. That's a new one. Can you provide some additional thoughts on this?
Yeah, every agency has a culture, and every account has a culture, and we do things a certain way, and we repeat it over time. And what happens is we just get so used to doing it, we don't pay attention to it. Then we get cultural lock-in. And, back to Brandon's question about, well, how do we get out of this thing? Well, think different. Look at it and go, is there a better way to do this? Where we get so stuck in, our operating model and our operating mode that we forget to look and see that there might be a better or different way to do this. It kind of goes back to performance management, start, stop, continue. Well, we need to apply that to, the process of account management, not the leadership piece, but the process. So we get so locked into culture that, this is, they'll never buy it. They'll never do this. We lose our objectivity. And objectivity, especially in today's world, is critically important, because that, I think, is going to, again, be a big point of difference for agencies and people in.
Let me sneak one last question, and it's 2:05. Last question. Anything else you'd recommend or currently have on your reading list or for the book club?
Yeah, actually there are. Brand Real is a great book. Brandreal. It's a book by, what's his name? Lawrence Vincent. A great book. And then also, one we just did, was Digital Renaissance by Joel Waldfogel. That was a great book. And then just because you should read it if you haven't, is Madison Avenue Manslaughter.
Michael Farmer.
Yeah, that's just going to give you some good perspective on the business. But I think those three, the one I really have enjoyed and done a lot of work with, I even have the crew at Michigan State reading it in management class and stuff, is Brand Real. It's just a great book. I mean, he just breaks it down real simple, and it's a terrific read.
I see it is 2:06. We ran 6 minutes over, which is fine. Greg, thank you. Terrific webinar. Lots of takeaways and insights. Thank you again.
You're very welcome. Thanks, folks. Appreciate you spending some time with me this afternoon.
Our next webinar, January 30th, a week from Thursday, the impact of digital on creative. We've just added 7 new webinars to the Filament website. Check us out. And with that, everyone, have a great day, and thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.